One of the stations on Thomas's branch line is near an airfield. Sometimes flight displays are held here during the summer, and then Annie and Clarabelle, as well as special trains bought by Toby and Percy, are full. When the flying is finished, the visitors get into the trains again so that Thomas and his friends can take them home.
Fancy giving yourself a stiff neck watching all that. I've got better things to do.
I think it's fun. It must be nice to be able to fly wherever you want.
Who needs to buzz about like that? I'd rather have my safe rails, thank you.
One day, Percy came to Farquhar with startling news. Some men had arrived at the airfield and were being taken up in an aeroplane so that they can jump out of it.
They've got sort of umbrella things. They open and carry the men down to safety.
They're called parachutes. The men are from the army. They come on a special training exercise.
Stupid nonsense.
The parachute exercise went on all the next day too. That evening, when Thomas stopped at the station by the river for a drink, the station master came along the platform.
Hold the train for a few minutes, please. One of those parachute chaps has landed in the river, and they think the best way to get him back to the airfield is by train.
Serves him right. I've got a good mind not to wait.
Now, Thomas, just remember where you would have been if Terence hadn't helped you out in the snow.
Thomas did remember. He said he was sorry. And a few minutes later, the soldier, very wet and miserable, was helped into Clarabelle. The signal lifted, the guard blew his whistle, and Thomas set off.
Hurry, hurry, hurry!
It wasn't far to the airfield, and Thomas reached the station quicker than ever before. The soldier was helped off the train, and his officer came to thank Thomas.
I'm glad I could help, but I still think that jumping out of aeroplanes is silly.
On all railways there are signals. They are posted alongside the tracks to warn entries there's something ahead and to stop. One morning, James came into the yard, looking very cross.
What's up with you, James?
Duh, it's not fair. Signals are stupid things. We'd get along a lot better without them if you ask me.
But surely the signals make things safer, don't they?
Pah, they're just a nuisance. They're always there to cut my momentum whenever I'm making great strides. Like, all the time. I'm sick of it.
All the same, I'd like to see how you'd manage without them, James.
They're probably a great deal faster.
But James spoke too soon. That night, a huge storm swept through the island. At the junction the next day, the gusts became fiercer still. Signals fell all over the island, leaving rail travel unsafe. Soon enough, men with green and red flags were posted wherever there were fallen signals. All engines had to proceed with caution until they saw a green flag at each post. James had to stop twice before even reaching his first platform.
Wouldn't it be nice just to get our signals back? You're late today, James. I thought you got faster without the signals to hold you up.
James said nothing, and snorted off. One day, Percy was looking glum at Knapford. He was talking to James.
My guard was telling me how lonely he is in his van. I think he should take some passengers to cheer him up.
Passengers aren't allowed in break vans. It's against regulations. Guards are important people, and the passengers might distract them if they couldn't look after the train properly.
Oh dear. I suppose they might.
We do it sometime on the Midland. Someone told me about it at Africa's Town. It's on some preserved lines where they haven't got any coaches.
You see, James?
Huh. Well, if you don't have any coaches, then that's a different story. But I'm sure the Fat Controller wouldn't approve of passengers in the guard's van.
Puh! Little you know.
Later that day, Percy had to collect some trucks from the quarry. Meanwhile at Dryore, some passengers got out of Henrietta. They all went through the ticket barrier, except for 2 passengers.
You've come too far, I'm afraid, sir. You should have got out at the last station. The last station. You must go back.
Yes, sabía que esto pasaría.
The ticket inspector called over the station master. Soon, Percy came along with his trucks. He saw the red signal and the station master waiting at the platform.
I'm giving your guard these 2 passengers to travel in his van. They're foreigners who came too far on Toby's train by mistake. Will you stop at Elsbridge to let them off, please? Passengers? But this is a goods train. James says it's against... it's not allowed, sir. Quite right, so it is. But I don't think James or the Fat Controller would mind us helping 2 foreign visitors on our island who can't understand our language, do you?
So Percy took the foreigners and set off. When they reached Elsbridge, they came to the front of the train to see him. They nodded, smiled, shook hands with Percy's crew, and the guard showed them to a taxi that would take them on the rest of their journey. A few weeks later, a parcel arrived with bright foreign stamps on the wrapping. Inside were warm, new scarves and gloves for Percy's crew and guard. It also had a letter that translated, "Thank you for helping us back to our station. Your railway is very splendid."
We mustn't tell James. He might get jealous. That would never do.
It was an important time on the Fat Controller's railway. The 100th anniversary of Tidmouth Station was coming close. To celebrate, the Fat Controller was to hold a special open day on the railway. The day before the opening, he came to Knapford to see the engines.
We're going to recreate the days when Tidmouth Station was new. I have important jobs for each of you. Gordon, you will be bringing special visitors from the mainland. Thomas, you will give me rides with Annie and Clarabelle. You will be sitting in the station so people can see how your controls work.
The men are giving me an extra special polish so the visitors can have their photos taken with me.
And I'm going to give them a special shunting demonstration.
Did the Fat Controller mention anything I could do?
Not to me.
Edward tried to be supportive of all the other engines' jobs, but he couldn't help wanting to be a part of the celebrations himself. The next morning, the engine's crews came early and began washing and polishing the engines until their paint was shiny and their brasses were gleaming. All of them, except Edward.
I haven't been chosen for anything. Maybe the Fat Controller doesn't think I'm special at all.
Why isn't Edward ready?
He's next for a special wash and polish, sir. We wanted to give him the most time, seeing as he's the star of the show.
The star of the show?
It was meant to be a surprise. You're one of the oldest engines on the railway, and by far one of the very best too.
Soon the men had Edward looking splendid.
Your first job as the star of the show is to take me to Tidmouth Station, then you'll run through the station and cut the red ribbon, and we'll start the celebrations. I declare this open day open. 3 chairs for all the really useful engines. Well done, Edward. You truly are the star of the show.
One day, Thomas and Toby were waiting at a level crossing when a smart new bus rolled up nearby. The bus was very rude.
Look at that funny old thing. Looks like a shed on wheels. The old coach behind it doesn't look much better. Would have been better off as a hen house if you ask me.
Hey, Toby's a really useful engine, you know.
Looks like he can't even go over 14 miles an hour. I'm much more useful than him.
Take no notice, Toby.
Later that day, Thomas found Toby again, taking on water.
Toby, you'll never guess what's happened. That new bus is broken down. The children need someone to take them to their picnic. Will you go?
I'm not sure. They won't want a funny tram engine like me. They better be off calling a new bus.
Well, they've already been waiting an hour. Go on, Toby. You'll be grand.
Reluctantly, Toby found Henrietta and hurried off down the line to meet the children.
Don't bump them too much.
Toby took no notice, and as soon as the children were on board, they set off into the countryside. He went at the right pace for the teacher to point out interesting sights along the line. children had a lot of fun on the train. They were almost sorry to leave when they reached the picnic spot. The children had a wonderful picnic, and when the bus arrived...
All aboard! I'm here to take you home. You won't need to ride in that funny old engine again.
Toby and Henrietta are far more fun than you. We want to go back with them instead.
Well, I do have some spare time. I'd be glad to take you.
So Toby took the children home. The bus didn't look happy at all.